They think you're harmless, that you're just being nice, that you're a kind soul, maybe even naive. And that's exactly where you become dangerous.
The most effective manipulation doesn't happen when someone raises their voice or bangs on the table. It happens when a smile disarms, when a subtle word becomes an invisible hook, and when weakness is used as a smokescreen. Believing that power imposes itself is the first mistake of those who have never truly had it. True power insinuates itself. We live in a culture that romanticizes the manipulative caricature, the boss yelling, the politician threatening, the Machiavellian villain with cold eyes and a deep voice. This imagery is useful for those who really manipulate because it distracts us. While everyone looks at the wolf in wolf's clothing, no one notices the lamb with sharp teeth in the corner of the room. Robert Greene warned that the greatest power players don't shout or demand, they insinuate. And Gracian, long before him, called this the art of dissimulation. Appearing less than one is, in order to be more than one seems. Renaissance courtiers knew this. In an environment where no one could show ambition directly, being perceived as a threat was a death sentence. So they disguised their genius with humility, hid their plans under compliments, and attacked with a smile. This is not a thing of the past. Peter Baelish, from Game of Thrones, did not gain power because he was the strongest, but because he was the most underestimated. His disguise was his greatest weapon. Who would suspect someone so helpful, so loyal? He manipulated entire alliances with sweet words and downcast eyes. And anyone who ignored him as irrelevant ended up on the floor. The trap of appearance is in subverting expectations. And herein lies the most powerful contradiction. The true manipulator does not seem manipulative. He seems weak. He seems kind. Sometimes he even seems like a victim. But behind this mask lies an architect of influence, someone who understood that the key to control lies in never raising the alarm. The French philosopher Honoré de Balzac said that all power is hidden. That's the trick, not appearing to be playing the game, and yet always being 3 steps ahead. This manipulation through deliberate weakness is not immoral, it's structural. It's present in negotiations, in relationships, in social gatherings. The colleague who says, "I don't have much experience in this," may have done it dozens of times. The friend who cries and says, "I just want to understand," may be using her guilt as a weapon. The person who belittles herself may just be waiting for the exact moment when her confidence will lower her guard. And make no mistake, you've done it too. We've all used appearances as a disguise, even if we're not aware of them. The question is, did you use them as defense or as attack? Understanding this dynamic is more than a lesson in psychology. It's a change in your attitude toward the world. Power is not where it seems to be. And the more innocent someone seems, the more you should watch with extra attention. Because in the social war that everyone pretends not to be playing, the most lethal soldiers use kindness as a sword and weakness as a shield. What if the simple act of saying, "Don't do that," was actually the most effective invitation for someone to do exactly that? Modern psychology has a name for this: reactance. But true masters of manipulation understood this centuries before any laboratory cataloged the phenomenon. They knew that when trying to take away someone's freedom of choice, the automatic impulse is not to obey, it's to resist. And this resistance, when properly stimulated, is what turns the suggestion into desire. That's why those who truly understand the game never give direct orders. They challenge, they provoke, they deny, knowing that they will be thwarted. Imagine the human mind as a stubborn child with a keen sense of independence. When someone says, "You can't," the brain hears, "Prove that you can." This is the basis of the oldest and most effective trick in reverse psychology. And this is where the game gets really interesting. The manipulator doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. He simply plants a doubt, a subtle challenge to the ego, and lets the victim's own pride do the work for him. It works because we believe we are free, but our freedom is easily manipulated by the desire to reaffirm it. Want a real example? In high-level negotiations, great strategists use phrases like, "Of course you wouldn't accept those terms. It's for bold people." What is being said is not what matters. What matters is what is being insinuated. The doubt sown in the other person's mind is simple. Am I bold enough? Does he think I'm weak? And that's it. The need to prove the opposite becomes stronger than logic, more powerful than fear. And without realizing it, the other party does exactly what the manipulator wanted from the beginning. This same mechanism is used in advertising campaigns when we see phrases like product for the few or not for everyone. They don't sell an item, they sell the feeling of belonging to an elite. They sell a challenge disguised as exclusivity, and the inflated ego responds by buying, not out of need, but out of pride. The need was manufactured. In relationships, the game is even more subtle. When someone says, "I don't think you care enough to understand that," what is being thrown is not a complaint, but a bait, a provocation to one's sense of self-worth. An invisible attack on the ego that forces the other person to defend themselves by proving the opposite, often with gestures, actions, and concessions that they would never have made directly. And all of this under the guise of a choice that in practice was never free. This is where manipulation reaches its most sophisticated level. Because the manipulator never forces you. He gives you the stage, he gives you the script, and he lets you act out the role he wrote, thinking that you are improvising. The illusion of control is more effective than control itself. And that is why reverse psychology does not work with orders, but with mirrors. It reflects what the person fears they are not. And in trying to prove that they are the opposite, they act exactly as expected. The philosopher Machiavelli wrote that men do evil from necessity, but good from will. The beauty of reverse psychology is that it mixes up these roles. The manipulator gets you to do what he wants as if it were your own will. He doesn't push you, he just pulls you off the ground and lets you run in the direction he's chosen. Unaware that you're being led, unaware that it was your ego, not your reason, that made the decision for you. If there is one gesture that disarms even the proudest of egos, it is indifference. Nothing activates human desire more intensely than that which seems to escape us. And that which escapes us does not scream, does not beg, does not offer itself. It is simply there, silent, full, as if it did not need anything, and therefore it becomes everything. This is the last and most refined layer of invisible manipulation, pretending not to want in order to make the other want more. The social world moves by scarcity. It is a brutal psychological law. We value less what seems available to us, and we attribute exaggerated value to what seems scarce, difficult, or selective. Casanova, perhaps the greatest documented seducer in history, understood this dynamic with almost scientific precision. He did not declare himself. He did not chase. His greatest seduction was in always appearing to be in control, even in the most intense moments. He would say with his eyes, "You can have me, but only if I want it too." This unstable balance between presence and absence created an irresistible tension. The desire came from the fear of losing, not from the hope of winning. In everyday manipulation, this technique is applied in negotiations, in relationships, even in banal interactions. The client who says, "I'm not in a hurry to close a deal," is putting himself on the throne. The person who responds to a message with a strategic delay communicates something far beyond words. "I'm not desperate." And this message, even if silent, screams in the other person's subconscious. Absence becomes presence. Apparent disinterest generates genuine attraction. Not because the other person wants to please you, but because they want to recover their own sense of value in the face of your symbolic rejection. This weapon works because it touches on our most primitive anxiety, the fear of rejection. When someone shows that they need us, we feel in control. But when that person seems not to need us, the mirror is reversed. The threat of being disposable, of not being special, activates a type of silent anguish that leads us to chase, not the person per se, but the reestablishment of our internal value. And that's where the manipulator wins. He doesn't win through conquest, but through absence, through doubt, by the coldness that warms the desire of others. Indifference, in this game, is pure strategic staging. It's not about being cold, but about appearing selective, about pretending to be in control even when you want to be. It's what Robert Greene called the art of appearing disinterested. Because while the other person is trying hard to convince you, you are in the center of the stage, silent but in absolute control. This is the final point of the invisible bait. You don't offer resistance. You don't propose agreements. You don't demand. You simply withdraw emotionally. And in this emptiness, the other person projects everything: need, desire, urgency. You didn't win because of what you did, but because everything you did seemed like you didn't need to do. You have just seen that the most powerful manipulation does not come from confrontation, but from absence. That true dominance does not impose itself. It seduces, silences, and lets the other person surrender of their own free will. This is the essence of invisible bait. Those who appear weak control. Those who appear distant attract. Those who pretend not to want conquer. Now I want to know from you, have you ever noticed someone using reverse psychology against you? Have you ever fallen into a subtle trap? Comment here, invisible bait. And remember, in the game of power, those who appear to give up first are the ones who are most controlling. Be honest. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, no one truly sees you? It's not about lacking value. It's about knowing how to make it visible. The social game isn't fair. If you don't know the rules, you're left behind, but you don't have to stay invisible. In the Anti-Weak audiobook, I share 22 strategies to master interactions, gain respect, and step out of the shadows. Click the link in the description now and start the transformation only you can make happen.